This week on the Aviators, long before the Apache was the king of the hill, there was the AH-1 Cobra. Joe takes to the skies with the largest formation flying team in the world, Team Aerodynamix. And while it may be old, slow, and ugly, if you were to find yourself pinned down by the enemy, you'd be happy to see it. We're giving you an inside look at the A-10 Thunderbolt II.
Aviators.
When most people think of military pilots, the Air Force, the Navy, and possibly the Marine Corps are the main branches that likely come to mind. But it's the Army that most often employs helicopters in combat. In Vietnam, the Army saw the need for a dedicated attack helicopter capable of providing close air support and softening up a target prior to the arrival of troop helicopters. The solution was the AH-1 Cobra.
The Army in Vietnam, we had the UH-1 Huey, and they tried to adapt the Huey and turn it into a gunship, and they did so successfully. But the aircraft needed to be more maneuverable, and it needed to have more agility. And essentially, what I like to tell people they did was they took the Huey and put it on railroad tracks, put two locomotives on each side, and basically just squashed it.
Jeff Moss is a pilot with the Army Aviation Heritage Foundation.
So the aircraft's only 36 inches wide. So when you get in it, it just fits like a glove. It's really hard to pick out of the air, especially when you're doing diving fire or you're really coming in on the enemy. They can't find you in the air, and when you're rolling in hot, firing the weapon systems available to you, their heads are down, it's really hard to pick out.
The AH-1 was the Army's, and indeed the entire U.S. Armed Forces' first dedicated attack helicopter. Helicopters have an advantage in providing close air support as they can hover and linger near ground troops.
So they basically started out with a simple airframe. They hung guns on it. So they put rockets on these wing stores on the side. And then in the turret, they had a grenade launcher and a 7.62 minigun. And the minigun, if you see them today, you know, the pilot pulled the trigger and it just buzzsaw, fire out ammo. But the grenade launcher would launch grenades just like you launch on an M16 and M203, where you'd load it's the same grenade. You'd have them in there, and when the co-pilot gunner would launch those grenades, I mean, it was just devastating firepower. And in Vietnam, there was rarely an occasion where they would open fire on the Cobra because it was going to bring some heat. So the pink team development started, and they would use a scout to basically go out and, you know, a lot of times they would draw fire, and the Cobras would just be laying back waiting to see where the fire was coming in, and then the Cobras would roll in, and it was a bad day. You never wanted to be on the business end of this aircraft because it was just devastating firepower.
Pink teams, or hunter-killer teams, utilized 2 or 3 helicopters, one a scout type like the OH-6, and the other 2 AH-1s.
The thing that I found very interesting with the Cobra is, you know, you were out there in a pink team, you had an OH-6, a scout, and generally 2 Cobras. And when the Cobras would roll in on a target, and I've been fortunate to learn these tactics flying with some of my counterparts that flew the Cobra in Vietnam, I've been exposed to the tactics of that war, so I can simulate them for air shows in this aircraft. But they went in together, and as one aircraft was diving and pulling out, the second one's coming down, this guy's doing an RTT, this guy's coming up. So you had continuous suppressive firepower going into a target, and they didn't know what was hitting them. They couldn't pick the aircraft out of the air. All they knew was we've got stuff coming at us from every direction imaginable, and then they would peel off and leave.
Jeff demonstrated for us the return to target maneuver. The AH-1 runs in on the target, that berm of trees, then pitches up, comes around, and strafes over the target again. This is an excellent demonstration of the maneuverability of a light attack helicopter versus a fixed-wing aircraft.
Even with just a single ship, I was able to come out of a gun run, pitch up, do a return to target, and have ammo back on the intended target in a matter of about 20 seconds, if not even faster than that. So it's a quick maneuver.
Jeff flew the Cobra with the Army during the first Gulf War. He would have flown the F model seen here, which is an upgraded version of the G model more commonly used in Vietnam. As the projected threat changed after Vietnam, the US saw the need for assets that could engage tanks as opposed to soft targets, such as personnel. To this end, the AH-1 was upgraded to engage tanks. But the Army saw the need for a heavier attack helicopter, which led to the AH-64 Apache. This led to the Army retiring the Cobra in the late 90s. However, the Marines still use a substantially upgraded twin-engine version of the Cobra.
So the Marine Corps still flies the Cobra. It's evolved, so the Army has the Apache, the Marine Corps has, they stuck with the Cobra. It's twin engine, it has Hellfire missiles on it just like the Apache. So they've stuck with that airframe, but they continue to develop it, and they, again, having twin engines versus one engine is giving more power, and that was one of the biggest problems we had in Desert Storm and in the later years with the Cobra. It got so heavy, adding fire control computers, armament, all the bells and whistles that went with it to, again, take it from a DOS operating system and try to get to Windows, if you will, or to an Apple. And the Apache's really the Apple, if you will, in our world.
Today, there are a little more than 20 AH-1s in civilian hands registered with the FAA, although not all of them are flying. The majority are with the Army Aviation Heritage Foundation and spend their time with pilots like Jeff traveling across the country demonstrating the legacy of Army aviation.
It's a privilege, again, to be able to take people up and show them this aircraft that I had the privilege of flying not only in combat but also during my Army career.
When many of us go to air shows, we see pilots perform dazzling feats, usually in very strange aircraft that you're not necessarily going to see at your local airport. An Extra 300, a Pitt Special, or even a World War II trainer are not typically your usual general aviation aircraft. However, the Vans RV line of airplanes are not only relatively common GA aircraft, they're arguably the most popular home-built aircraft ever. The RV also just so happens to be the exclusive choice of the world's largest airshow team, Team Aerodynamix, formerly known as Team RV.
The name change was a really critical decision factor for us because what we found was the spectators, the public, when they saw Team RV, they saw Team Motorhome. They were looking for the Flying Winnebagos. Where are the Flying Winnebagos?
Michael Stewart is the team leader and one of the founders of Team Aerodynamix.
So in 2012, we changed the name to Team Aerodynamix. It's really no longer about the airplane anymore. It was about the entertainment value and the excitement and the grace and the filling the skies with the airplanes and what we like to think of it as theater in the sky.
Michael started the team in 2002 and has seen their popularity steadily increase over time. The initial attraction largely being the incredible formations performed by a common, everyday GA plane.
The plane that we fly is the everyman's airplane. There are thousands of these flying. And it's really the airplane that makes this possible because it's affordable. You can build one. You'll never see a 12-ship of T6 trainers because it's too expensive. Too expensive to operate, too expensive to maintain. The planes we fly make that possible. They also are very well built for what we do. High visibility, bubble canopies, we can see everything. Our situational awareness is fantastic. And it has the right mix of aerobatic capability and cross-country performance to get to the air shows.
All of the aircraft on Team Aerodynamix are RVs, however, they're not all the same type. At this point, Vans offers more than 8 different models of RV, and Team Aerodynamix has RV6s with side-by-side seating, RV8s with tandem seating, and the smaller tandem RV4. The team is also unique as most of their pilots also built their own airplanes.
So Legs, you are a member of the world's largest aerobatic formation team. I really want to know how that feels, but how did you get here, man?
Well, I got my license in 1980, built the plane, and finished it in 2002. And through the plane, you meet a lot of other builders, and Mike Stewart was one of the guys that I met. He invited me to come down to do a formation flight. I'd never done formation before, and after one flight with those guys, I was hooked. And I started attending clinics. I went to several of the clinics that the team had put on, and just improved my skills and got to the point where I was asked to join the team, and that was about 6 years ago, and I'm probably the happiest man alive.
Team Aerodynamix performs with up to 12 aircraft flying in tight formations, executing aerobatic maneuvers as they go. To safely train and organize the team, the 12 aircraft are further broken down into 3 flights.
We have 3 flight leads, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie leads. They're responsible for their 4 ships. And that allows me, as the team leader, to manage and choreograph that in segments and pieces.
The sheer size of the formation when all of the aircraft are together is extremely impressive. And our newest host, Joe, who's never flown in formation before, got to experience it firsthand.
What are you going to do with me in the air? I get to go fly with your team and tell me what I can expect. This is my first experience in a formation in this type of aircraft. So what am I going to be feeling, and what kind of maneuvers are you going to take me at?
Well, it's really cool because we're going to introduce you to what it's like to fly close to 11 airplanes. So on takeoff roll, we're going to take off in formation. That means our wingtips are going to be lined up, and we're going to stay lined up. We're going to take off, and then we're going to move into position. And that's almost a show position. You're going to be just as tight as we're going to fly in our show. And we'll follow the group out ahead of us. We'll join in trail. We'll do some maneuvering just to let you see what it's like. And then the lead is going to call us up. We're going to all join up, and we're going to make a huge delta flight. And you're going to have airplanes all around you. Everywhere you look, you're going to see airplanes, and you can reach out and touch. So they're going to be very close. It's a really cool feeling. We'll do some maneuvering in that. Then we're going to drop back, and here's the fun part. We're going to do loose trail. So loose trail, what's going to happen is we're going to change into an echelon position that we can break out of it, and then it's a snake. We're just going to go up, we're going to go down, we're going to chase the guy, we'll put a little G on, we'll get some speed, we'll put smoke. It's a lot of fun doing that, and most passengers really enjoy that. And then we'll join back up into our flights and come back to the air.
2, hang on, here we go. And 3.
Whew, man, awesome ride. It was so cool. I'm telling you, I'm speechless, because I was telling Legs that flying at this time of day in this kind of air is what hooks you, and if that doesn't hook you, you have to do it in formation, because that'll do it every time.
Hi, I'm Rob Ryder. Modern airborne navigation in North America uses an enhanced GPS signal to provide accurate location and altitude information. GPS has 3 major components: a network of satellites, a ground-based network that verifies the satellite accuracy and uploads corrections, and a receiver in the airplane that uses the satellite information to calculate its current location and velocity. The accuracy of GPS and the ease of modern receiver operation is making GPS the preferred method of navigation.
Some aircraft were designed to go fast. Others are designed to be luxurious. There are some airplanes that are simply beautiful to look at. And there are some aircraft that are simply the peak of technology. This aircraft is none of those things. It's old, it's slow, it's ugly, and it only has one purpose: to make things go boom. Period. The A-10 Thunderboll II, affectionately known as the Warthog, was designed in the 1970s to serve as the Air Force's main close air support or ground attack aircraft. Conceived during the Cold War, the A-10 was purpose-built to counter an invasion by Russian armor.
Absolutely. You know, it was specifically designed for that folded gap scenario where the Russians coming over, bringing their amazing amounts of tanks and armor across that that Fulda Gap, and then invading the U.S., and we were the stop line defense in that.
Major Kyle Lanto is an A-10 instructor at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base.
Close air support is our bread and butter. It's designed exactly for that.
With the close air support mission being the aircraft's primary purpose, the A-10 was designed and engineered around the 30mm GA U-8A Avenger cannon. A massive 7-barreled hydraulically driven Gatling gun capable of raining down hell, fire, and brimstone on the enemy.
The gun is capable of firing a rate of 70 rounds per second, with an overall of 4,900 rounds per minute.
Staff Sergeant Daniel Glebinski is a crew chief on the A-10 at Davis-Monthan.
The gun actually starts where I'm standing right here. Now, if you'll follow me, I'll lead you past the drum itself, the hydraulic drives where they load the ammunition, and I'll bring you to the barrels, which, where I'm standing now, is actually over half the length of the airframe itself.
Firing it, there is nothing else like it. I equate it to like sitting on top of a chainsaw. So you feel it spin up, you feel it rotate underneath your feet, and once it spins up and starts actually firing, you can hear the gun, you can see the smoke coming over the top of the canopy. Everything goes a little bit gray there for a while, so a little bit of a fog. You let off the trigger, and then immediate feedback on where those bullets are hitting because you can see them impacting right out in front of you.
Although the cannon is capable of firing 4,100 rounds per minute, the A-10 only carries 1,200 rounds of ammunition, enough for roughly a 9-second burst. However, the gun is usually only fired in 1 to 2 second bursts in an effort to conserve ammo and prevent overheating. In keeping with its mission, the A-10 is designed to go low and slow. Having more in common with aircraft from the Second World War, the Warthog's maximum speed is a paltry 450 knots. This may be fast compared to your usual prop-driven four-seater, but it's downright wimpy compared to the F-16's top speed of Mach 2.
You know, speed is only relevant when you get close back to the ground.
For its mission, the A-10's low speed is one of the aircraft's strengths.
What it does for us is that I don't rely on the targeting pod. I'm not looking face down into my cockpit the whole entire time. I can be looking right out the window, which I love to do, which all A-10 guys love to do, is just sitting there with a pair of binos sometimes, and I'm actually seeing the guys on the ground moving around. So it allows us that visual flexibility.
The A-10 is unique within the Air Force, as it has the ability to linger at medium to low altitudes for long periods of time, waiting to pounce on targets when called.
With the wings the way they are, the engines the way they are, you know, it's built to stay around the battlefield for a long time. And we can stay airborne on just our internal tanks for about 3 hours. And I'm talking in Afghanistan terms. We can stay overhead for about 3 hours, 2.5 if we have to go to the tanker and then come back. Longest mission to set you up with a frame of reference for me was 8 hours. We did 3 air refuelings during that whole entire time.
Looking closely at the A-10, the skin of the aircraft seems to resemble that of a battleship more than a modern fighter.
This airplane is a tank with wings.
Everything on the airplane, from the gear to the canopy to the wing spars, is rugged. The pilot is encased in a bathtub of titanium armor, and the airplane's fuel tanks can seal themselves.
It's built to take a beating and keep on going. There's been instances where the wings have had holes shot through them, bullets penetrated the side. This aircraft always makes it back, and it always does its job.
From a maintenance and design standpoint, the A-10 is a relatively simple aircraft, at least by military standards. The General Electric TF-34 high-bypass turbofan engines are nearly identical to what you might find on a Bombardier CRJ.
This aircraft is not too smart for its own good. The F-22 itself, the integration of all the computers, components, as well as the mechanical side of the house that I work on, if it senses a problem before you do, it will shut the system off. This aircraft will keep going, keep going, keep going until it falls out of the sky, because that's where it wants to be. Normally, when we do deploy with this aircraft, we bring the entire support section to include our tools, parts, everything we would use on a daily basis. However, as funny as it sounds, if you talk to any other crew chiefs, a hammer and a big screwdriver usually fixes a lot of problems.
Now, as you may have noticed, there's only one seat in the A-10. This means training new A-10 pilots can have its challenges.
The A-10 is one of the few, if not the only, single-seat
aircraft, where we do not have a two-seater aircraft in the Air Force inventory. Before we allow an individual to take control of an actual A-10, we want to put him through the simulator a couple of times to make sure that he is not going to endanger himself or anybody else, or maybe accidentally break the aircraft. You'll find if you were to fly it, there is no difference between the systems, the switches, the representation of the aircraft systems. They are identical to what he gets on the flight line. The software in the jet is the same as what he gets on this flight line. So everything he sees in every menu, on any of his displays, what he sees in his heads-up display, it is exactly what he's getting there.
When flying training sorties, as often happens at Davis-Monthan, instead of having an instructor in the rear seat like you would in a two-place trainer, the instructor will usually fly in another A-10 and observe the students flying from there. In addition to the gun, the A-10 can also carry a full load of rockets, missiles, and bombs. This gives the pilot a great deal of flexibility in hitting the targets designated by observers on the ground.
Well, primarily, to get my job done, I am focused mainly on talking to a ground guy that's qualified to control air. So your joint terminal attack controllers, which can be any one of the services as long as they're qualified. We'll spend our time talking to him. He picks out the targets, nominates them, gets clearance from the ground commander, and then he sends them to us, and we basically prosecute them. So we're in constant communication with those ground guys, and we rely on them to actually do our job. We couldn't do it that well without those guys.
The A-10 really is unique in the modern scope of combat aircraft. When attacking targets on the ground, A-10 pilots are able to actually see with their own eyes what they are trying to engage.
We don't get to target trucks and vehicles too often, but this was one case that I had where we were going after a Taliban commander, and the ground guys had identified him, and he was in I believe a white Sonata or something of that caliber. And we found him because of the A-10 being so close to the battlefield. I saw a white vehicle driving around. We had him stopped underneath the tree. I basically drove right down the road that he was on, let out about 100 rounds at the closest range that I could because I wanted all the bullets to impact tightly dispersed so I wouldn't affect anybody else around me, and let off the trigger. And then by the time I let off the trigger, that vehicle was burning, black smoke was coming out, and then I could see the explosion as I was pulling off target. It was really good feedback.
The A-10 has been put forth for retirement many times. In fact, the aircraft wasn't even part of the Air Force's initial deployment into Afghanistan. But it quickly became apparent that there was a real need for something of the A-10's caliber.
One of my favorite quotes is, you can win the air war, you can be fighting air to air and have air superiority, but if you land that aircraft at an enemy airfield and you're eating breakfast with the enemy tank commander, then you've lost the war. It's important is because there's still ground guys out there, and this is their favorite weapon of choice. If I find one and he's a joint terminal attack controller or in an Army unit that has been pinned down and is called for A-10 support, usually don't have to pay for a drink that whole night in the bar. Those guys, they're always giving us high fives, handshakes, stopping us. When they realize you're an A-10 guy, you are their best friend. So that's like the gratification that we get out of doing our job and doing it well.
Seasons 1 to 4 of The Aviators are now available on DVD and Blu-ray. For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From our official home at the Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we'll see you next week on The Aviators.